Okay, gents, the big breaking news in the soccer world today is that Paul Pogba has received a 4-year ban for doping. That means he will not be playing again until he's 34 years of age. It's going to be until August 2027, that ban right now. Pogba's released a statement saying he plans to appeal to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. And this is the standard anti-doping ban that's given out to anybody who fails one of these tests. So the statement, I just want to read it from Paul Pogba just to kind of set the tone for this discussion here. And he says, I have been today informed by the Tribunal Nazionale anti-doping decision, that's in Italy, and believe that the verdict is incorrect. I am sad, shocked, and heartbroken that everything that I have built in my professional playing career has been taken away from me. When I am free of legal restrictions, the full story will become clear. But I have never knowingly or deliberately taken any supplements that violate anti-doping regulations. As a professional athlete, I would never do anything to enhance my performance by using banned substances, and I've never disrespected or cheated fellow athletes and supporters of any of the teams I've played for and against. As a consequence of the decision announced today, I will appeal this before the Court of Arbitration for Sport. So, Nick Mendola, a lot to unpack here. Obviously, this has been a developing situation with this, this ban announced a while ago for Juventus' Paul Pogba. Now it's been rubber stamped. He's got a 4-year ban pending this appeal. Quite simply, is this the end of Paul Pogba?
Man, I don't know. It's been a crazy few years for him. I can't imagine it is 31 next month. So plenty of time, and there will be places for him to play. You're telling me that even at age 33, if I'm doing the math right, that somebody in MLS or Saudi Arabia or China or Japan won't give him a lifeline. So I think we'll see him again. It's certainly the end of his real effect on games, effect on the national scope, I would say, the international scope. And it's just a strange time for him. And you almost, not knowing him, you hope for his mental health, because holy cow, that is a heck of a sentence.
It really is. I mean, Andy, we talk a lot about his legacy, I guess, as a player. That's the kind of first question that comes to my mind. If this, like Nick said, is the end of him being at the top elite level of the game in European football and world football for France. I mean, we're talking about a World Cup winner here, a guy that really helped drag France through to win that World Cup in 2018. He was a star at Juventus as a youngster. Remember watching him against Man City in a Champions League game. He just took the game by the scruff of the neck as a youngster and just floated in off that left inside channel, just the passing, the power, the direct running, everything. He had everything. And then he went to Man United and everything kind of unraveled, but he won the World Cup in the middle of it. So it's a really weird career, right? Up and downs, and a real roller coaster for him over the last, 6-7 years, I guess. And now he's back at Juve. This has happened. So I guess what is his legacy if it was all to end at the top level for him after this ruling?
A generational talent for a generation that ended up being too short, I guess. Like he was the central midfield, not even prospect, but star of the world for a couple of years when he was there at Juventus. And there's a reason that Manchester United paid well over 100 million to, remember, bring him back to Manchester United, because they had him there, and there was a lot of he said, she said, from both sides about why he wasn't getting into the team, why he ultimately left the club and went to Juventus. In a way, he cost United a couple $100 million in his career, because they didn't get a big fee going out, and then they had to pay the $100 million to bring him back in. But he kind of epitomized an entire era that's still going on, actually, at Manchester United, where big names have come in for big money, and this is going to be the star that's going to maybe not save, but fix the club. And really drive them forward. And it just never happened for most. It didn't happen for him. There was the managerial merry-go-round that was going on at United at the time. And he was such a mercurial talent, but he didn't fit into every team. He didn't fit into every system. You had to kind of build a team around what he did well and what he did not do well. And that was the thing, I think, that at Juventus, why he became such a star is they built, and I believe it was Antonio Conte at that time, built kind of the 5-3-2 or 3-5-2 system around him that put Andrea Pirlo right next to him to spray the ball over the field, and that's what United thought they were getting when they got, but that player wasn't there at United. So it's really a shame if this is how it's going to end for him, because he was such an incredible talent. He was so popular as well. Like, I think we forget, or maybe we lose sight of in this time, somebody that's super popular on social media, super popular with young people, and we kind of, people of our age, I guess we're old enough that we can say that now, we kind of brush it off and say, oh, you know, he's a social media star or whatever. Paul Pogba was the star for a period of time. And for him to never really be able to, I guess, maintain that level, as a lot of people expected and hoped to see, people that just love and enjoy great football, I think that's probably the most disappointing thing on the whole for this entire story, but even more specifically with the ban now.
Yeah, and I mean, injuries obviously weren't kind to him, especially when he was at Manchester United. But you look at, for France, I mean, 91 caps over the years for France. And then Manchester United, even looking when he came, he had that one season, 2018-19, where he scored 16 goals in all competitions, 13 in the Premier League. And, you know, I'm thinking back, though, his legacy for me is obviously winning the 2018 World Cup. You saw some of the footage of him driving the France team on. I think it was at halftime of the final. He was rallying the guys and saying, you know, it just almost like an out-of-body experience for him. I think he mentioned the speech and what he did to help lead that team as a fairly young player still a few years ago. But at Juve, under Conte and then Allegri, I think they found the best use of his skill set in that system. Almost a free roll in off the flank, drifting around. Never saw that at United. Like you said, so many different managers, didn't fit with Mourinho's system, didn't fit with so many others. And even with France at times, Deschamps struggled to find the right system for him to flourish in. But I'm with you. Almost, you know, Messi, Ronaldo are on a different sphere. And then Pogba was that third guy, right? Just underneath, just before Mbappe arrived. And, you know, he was the superstar of that next player and the heir to Zidane, basically. And I think it's just a shame, right, Nick? I don't know if you want to give some closing thoughts on this. But on his legacy, I mean, it's an awful shame for it to end like this, as it looks like it's going to right now.
I think it's a challenge. It's going to be a challenge for a lot of people to make this connection. And I think part of it goes down to literally what he looks like and the fact that he wasn't English. But to me, his story on the field was very David Beckham. And the way he was treated was very David Beckham. And again, we're not here to have a long, or I'm not fit to discuss, you know, maybe the role of race or nationality or whatever. But when you think about the sort of player he was, and the fact that he arrived also in a decade where we were transitioning from authoritarian coaches like Mourinho, which he admitted his time with Mourinho caused depression to him. And obviously he had an issue with Sir Alex Ferguson as well, because he didn't stick around Man United. But if Paul Pogba came around now for a Pep Guardiola, for a Jurgen Klopp, I see him used in that Kevin De Bruyne role, and he would be a different type of player. And I just go back to Beckham, and because of the social media, which is the Pepsi commercials of that time, to me, Paul Pogba was almost in an era where it was still frowned upon to be too big for the club. He became a personality too big for the club. And we're never going to see, because of these years off, we're not going to see the stats. We're not going to be able to make a proper comparison. But there's something there that talks about that David Beckham style player to me. I like that you bring up Zidane, and maybe that can be a little closer. But Pogba was never going to have the Messi numbers, the Ronaldo numbers, because he didn't play that position. And Beckham, I think, fell victim to that as well. We didn't realize just how good he was. And you watch like documentaries of his teammates realized how good he was. I doubt you'll find a player who played with Pogba in his prime who wouldn't tell you what a talent. And so, yeah, I don't know if you guys think that's fair, but the Beckham thing jumps out to me.
Yeah, I think legacy-wise, for me, it's a case of we saw in short spells what he was capable of, especially younger in his career, and then during the 2018 World Cup, and then maybe for half a season at Manchester United over the time he was there. But we never got to consistently see the best Paul Pogba. And I don't really think that was ever his fault. I think the managerial changes, I think the teams that he was in at United especially, and also all the other media attention, especially here in the UK, that was so negative towards him for a lot of the reasons you spoke about, Nick. I think that weighed heavily on him. So, look, the final point from me is this is a huge shame. This is going to end like this for Pogba. We know in his prime and at his best, he is one of the best midfielders in recent history. And yeah, it's just a really sad situation that his incredible career to date has kind of petered out like this, and we may not be able to see him play, if not for 4 years, maybe not ever again, really, at the top level. So we'll keep you updated on Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com and all the latest news on Paul Pogba's ban, his appeal, and what's next for one of the greatest players of his generation.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And for even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock. And be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you there.